People usually ask me what it's like to live in the city, and generally think the answer is complicated. I moved to the city back in 2022. I originally studied here when I was 20 years old, though, back in 2017. When I initially came here back in 2017, it was the first time that I had left home. I'm originally from Bay Area, California, East Palo Alto to be exact. When I studied here as a 20-year-old, it was my first experience of being outside of the country. Getting like a sense of independence. This is the first time that I was out somewhere on my own, didn't really have any friends. I was completely building a community from scratch, and I had no perception of what life here would be like. I chose to come to Copenhagen to study design. In my bachelor's program, I studied film photography, but I needed something to sort of spice up my creative pursuits, and graphic design was fulfilling that itch for me. I was able to tap into this skill set that I never thought I would be able to, and also to validate myself in a way that I would have never been able to do just staying at home in the States and at my home college. I came back to Copenhagen in 2022. For the past 3 years, I've really grown with this city, and it's definitely tested me in a lot of ways and helped me grow in a lot of ways. The things that I loved about this city when I first came here when I was 20, and then coming back as like a 25-year-old, I still very much love about the city. Like, it is very accessible. You can walk everywhere, you can bike everywhere. As somebody that was raised in California, it is a different world to be able to access a city and your surroundings without having to get into a car. And that's really what drew me into being in this place, is like, life is just so much smaller in like a very humane way. And it's a beautiful city. It's something that I knew about already moving back here, is like how white the city is. Like, Denmark is a very homogenous society. Even with that being the case, like, I felt like I can largely mind my business in Denmark. Like, people don't really pay you any mind. That is for a multitude of reasons. I think a lot of people in the city, I don't want to generalize, but me being like low-key attached to the fashion world of the city, people got a lot of like main character syndrome. Like, people are in their own world, so to speak. So you low-key can just exist out here and like no one will really pay you any attention. And there's pros and cons to that. As somebody that loves to mind his business, like, it has been a great place to sort of like exist in my own worlds. But coming to live here long term, you do sort of miss the feelings of home, of like the warmth of like, stranger interactions. And Denmark is just a very homogenous place. And as someone who is Black and that is from America, like, I was raised around white people. I'm from the Bay. Like, we are exposed to all kinds of people. I grew up with mostly Black and Mexican and poly people, like, that's sort of my background, but also white people. I went to a white school and then to a school that had no white people in it, and then I went to a PWI. So I feel like I've constantly been dipping and diving into different sort of settings, as the person that I am. So I feel like I am pretty well versed and be able to retain who I am despite being in a multitude of different settings. But Denmark has presented like a unique challenge for me. Like, it is just very white in a way that it feels almost dystopian. I expressed this to my fiance, who is half Danish and half Korean. And she starts to see it now too, of just like, you can walk through this city and feel like nothing is happening in the world. And this is just like a very nuanced topic. Like, this is not to blame Denmark for any of this. And also, when you speak of Copenhagen, you can't use that as a general way to talk about Denmark, because Copenhagen is such a singular place in Denmark, the country. But walking through Copenhagen, you can feel like nothing is going on in the world. And like, for me, as a Black person, it is sort of like a mind fuck in a way. It feels like I'm just like sitting on the sidelines a little bit sometimes. That's all I'm trying to say. I feel a little bit of like a guilt about it, Like it's not productive to feel that way, but you get a little bit of like survivor's remorse being out here. Like I was not raised in a place like this. I've had the privilege of being a part of a community of non-white people living in Denmark. I don't know where the black people are in the city. That's not to say that there aren't black people in the city. You know, I've lived in Norvest and I've lived in Narrowbowl, and like there's a hefty population of Ethiopian and Somali people here, and people from the Middle East, and all types of ethnicities represented in those areas. And this is to show love for people all across the Black diaspora. I don't feel like I see these people. And maybe I'm just like in the wrong places, you know? Maybe I need to go out into nightlife more. Maybe I just am not in the know. I don't use Instagram no more. I don't know what no parties is going on. Like, I'm very disconnected from the outside world. I need to make that clear, but I feel like when I'm out in these cafes and out in public biking around the city, I don't really see anybody that looks like me. And that's like, on some days it's okay, but on other days, it is very deflating to not see yourself represented out on the streets. But if you are an individual, I mean, if you are somebody that's black living in Copenhagen or living in Denmark, like please comment below, talk about your experience and like how is living in Denmark for you. I'm constantly looking for people to connect with, you know, as an expat living in unfamiliar lands. I would love to hear about other people's experiences living here. I more so meant this video as like a starting point for possibly just like discussing the topic in more depth, but just to start off, when people ask me about how it is to be black in Copenhagen, I just say it's different every day. And I try to ground myself in knowing who I am, who I come from, who raised me, and taking pride in who I am and wearing that on my sleeve and just being myself to the best of my abilities. And yeah, staying grounded. Make sure you call your folks at home. Make sure you continue to take in your culture, you know, listening to music, watching TV shows and movies, listening and watching Grits and Eggs. Yeah, just staying positive. But if you are a black person or a person of color living in the city or living in Denmark or living in Europe broadly and want to comment on sort of your experiences living in these sort of places, please feel free to leave a comment down below. I hope to see you back here soon. And yeah, that's it for now. Thank you for taking a moment to tap in with me, and I'll see y'all in the next one.